The first thing that broke was a notification. Not a scream, not a confession, not even a suspicious lipstick smear on a collar like in the old stories. Just a polite little buzz from my bank app. The kind of buzz you ignore because life is full of buzzing things, and most of them are nothing. Joint checking, $3,140.17. Merchant. Stonewater couples retreat amount, and $2,400. I stared at it until my eyes started doing that strange, unfocusing trick they do when the brain doesn't want to accept what it already understands. Haley was supposed to be at her dad's place this week. That was the script. Her father was not doing great, she'd said, face arranged into the careful concern she used for doctors and pastors. She'd packed a bag in the living room while I made coffee, narrating the whole thing like she was on trial and wanted the jury to like her. 1 week, she'd told me. 7 days. I'll sleep on the pullout, help him with meds, make sure he eats. I can't leave him like that. She said it like she was the only decent person left on earth. Now my phone was telling me my wife had booked something called a couples retreat. Couples. Plural, but really it meant two. I stood in the kitchen with the coffee still hot in my hand, listening to the refrigerator hum and the old house settle. The winter light through the blinds made the counter look striped, like it was wearing prison bars. That thought came and went, and I pushed it away because I didn't want to give my imagination any fun. I opened the transaction details with the slow caution you use around a sleeping snake. Stonewater couples retreat. Package, the two of us, deluxe. Dates, starting today. The coffee tasted like pennies. A sane person might have called her right then. A sane person might have typed, "What the hell is this?" and watched the phone like it was a detonator. But I know my own mouth. If Haley got a line into my head, she could fill it with noise until I said something ugly. And if I said something ugly, then the story would be about my anger instead of her choices. Haley loved stories. She curated her life the way people curate their feeds, clean angles, bright smiles, no shadows that weren't flattering. Silence was the only thing left that belonged to me. I set the mug down. It clinked too loud. Her perfume bottle was still on the dresser upstairs, the one she sprayed like a seal on a letter. The whole house still smelled like her. Rosemary candle, lavender detergent, the faint sweetness of that perfume. Little routines that made us look like a life. I went to the bedroom. Her side of the closet had empty hangers, a gap like a tooth pulled fresh. In the bathroom, her toothbrush was gone. She'd taken the travel case. Her face flashed in my mind the way it had looked this morning when she kissed me goodbye. Quick, soft, practiced. Not guilt, not yet, just efficiency. I checked our shared calendar on the fridge. She'd written Dad in a tight, neat script for the whole week. She'd even drawn a little heart next to it, like she loved being a good daughter. I did something I hadn't done in years. I called her father. His number was still saved as Frank. I listened to it ring, and each ring felt like stepping down a staircase in the dark. He answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. "Hello? Frank, it's me. It's Nate." A pause, then a small cough, like he was sitting up. "Nate, everything okay?" I looked at the transaction on my phone again, like it might change out of shame. "How are you feeling?" I asked. Another pause, but this one had weight. "Feeling? I'm fine. Why?" I felt something cold bloom under my ribs. "Haley said she was staying with you this week. She said you were sick." Silence. Then softer. "Haley hasn't been here in months, son." The kitchen seemed to tilt. The light through the blinds sliced sharper. "Frank," I said, and my voice didn't sound like mine. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." He sounded confused, and under that confusion I heard something else, something that made my skin prickle. "Did she tell you I was sick?" "Yeah," I said. "Jesus." He exhaled like a tire losing air. "Nate, I don't know what to tell you. We talked on Thanksgiving. That's it." I thanked him, because manners are a sickness I can't shake, and hung up. For a full minute, I just stood there holding my phone, letting the quiet bite into me. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I didn't slam cabinets. I opened my laptop. In my line of work, operations, schedules, deliveries, all those invisible gears, there's a rule. When something looks wrong, you don't argue with it. You verify, you document, you plan. My fingers moved without hesitation. I searched Stonewater Couples Retreat, their website loaded with smooth photos, white robes, fire pits, a lake that looked like it had been filtered into a lie. There was a packages tab. There were testimonials written by people who call grown men hubby. Then I saw it. A banner at the top of the page. "Welcome deluxe guests. Ask about our anniversary upgrade." Anniversary. Our anniversary was next month. The click of that realization sounded loud in my skull. I didn't confront her. I opened a new tab and searched. Divorce attorney near me. Outside, a car door slammed somewhere on the street. A dog barked. The world went on, the way it always does, indifferent as weather. I stared at the attorney listings until the words blurred, and then I did the one thing I'd always avoided, the one thing I thought only weak men did. I asked for help. I picked a name with good reviews and a plain website. No dramatic slogans, just a woman in a blazer smiling like she'd seen everything and billed for it. My thumb hovered over the call button. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Haley. Made it safe. Dad's asleep. I'm going to shower and crash. Love you. I looked at the message, the little heart emoji at the end, and something inside me turned from pain into something cleaner. A decision. I typed back, love you too. Then I saved screenshots of everything, and I started packing a bag. If you'd asked me a year ago what divorce looked like, I would have pictured a courtroom and two people shouting over a man in a black robe. I would have pictured ugly words and dramatic exits. The truth is much quieter. The truth is driving to a strip mall where a law office sits between a dentist and a place that sells custom t-shirts. The truth is fluorescent lights and a receptionist who doesn't care that your whole life is cracking. The truth is a clipboard with a pen on a chain. I sat in my truck for a long time before I went in. It was cold enough that my breath fogged the windshield. Across the lot, an old man pushed a cart full of groceries like he was moving boulders. A teenager in a hoodie stared at his own phone like it was a tiny god. I watched them and thought about how nobody can tell just by looking at you that your marriage is dying in your pocket, like a phone buzzing out bad news. I finally went inside. Her name was Tessa Dyer. That's what the brass plaque said anyway. The woman who called me back into her office looked like she'd been built out of competence. Sharp eyes, tidy hair, a notebook already open. Nathan Kessler, she said. Nate, I corrected automatically. She shook my hand. Her grip was firm, not friendly. What's going on? I told her. I didn't dress it up. I didn't say couples retreat like it was some funny misunderstanding. I said, my wife lied about her father, spent joint money on a resort, and I think she's there with another man. Tessa listened without making a single sympathetic noise. That alone made me trust her. When I finished, she leaned back and folded her hands. Okay, she said. First, don't confront her in a way that can be used against you. No threats, no shouting in public, no breaking anything, no going through her devices. I know you're angry. You get to be angry, but you don't get to be stupid. I almost laughed, because that last part felt like a blessing. Second, she continued, you need to protect your finances. Joint account means joint liability. If she's draining money, you may be held responsible for debts as well. No debt, I said, just that charge. Maybe just that charge, she corrected, maybe not. Do you have access to the statements? Yes. Good. Download everything. If you can, open a separate account in your name only and move half of what's in the joint account. Not all, half. Courts don't like a clean sweep. Keep it fair, keep it documented. I nodded because numbers I understand. People I don't. She slid a blank form across the desk. This is the intake, she said. I'm going to ask questions you may not like. Answer anyway. We went through the history of our marriage like it was an inventory list. Date married, assets, debts, employment. Any kids? None. Any violence? No. Any infidelity proof? Not yet. Do you want to file immediately? She asked. My throat tightened. Filing felt like stepping off a cliff you can't climb back up from. I want to serve her, I said, in person. Tessa's eyes narrowed. Why? Because I want her to see it. Because I want to watch the moment her story fails to stick. Because I want to deliver something she can't edit. But I didn't say any of that. Because she'll spin it, I said. If I do it through the sheriff, she'll tell everyone I blindsided her. If I hand her the papers, I control the moment. Tessa stared at me for a beat. Then she nodded once. That's not the worst reasoning I've heard, she said. Stonewater is out of state? 2 hours, I said. Then we can file here today and have you serve her there. I'll have a process server on standby if you change your mind. But if you do it yourself, you need to do it correctly. No theatrics, no touching. Keep it calm. I almost smiled at that. Like calm was something you could choose when your heart was a fist. She printed the petition while I filled out forms and tried not to think about Haley in a white robe by a fire pit, with some man's hand on her waist. When the printer spat out the pages, it sounded like a machine chewing up my old life and spitting out a new one. Tessa stapled the packet. The word divorce was on the top in bold letters. There, she said. That's the first door. I took the papers like they were fragile. One more thing, she added. If you're going to that resort, be prepared for performance. Cheaters perform, they cry, they deny, they blame, they go numb, they go mean. Don't get drawn into it. I thought of Haley's texts, her little hearts and careful phrases. Performance was her native language. Okay, I said. Tessa wrote something on a sticky note and slid it to me. That's my cell, she said. If anything goes sideways, you call me. If you feel like you're about to do something that will ruin you, you call me. I nodded again. I stood. I shook her hand. Because that's what I do when I'm trying not to fall apart. Outside, the cold air slapped me awake. Back in my truck, I set the papers on the passenger seat like they were a person. Then I did the next practical thing. I drove to a print and ship place and made copies. One set for her, one for me, one for Tessa. Documentation is a kind of prayer. You say it over and over until the universe has to listen. By the time I got home, the sun was sliding down behind the houses like it was tired of watching people lie. Haley's text came again. Dad's meds are making him cranky. I'm going to take him soup later. Miss you. I stared at it until I could feel the heat behind my eyes. I typed, take care of him. Then I turned off my phone. I packed a duffel bag with 2 days of clothes, toothpaste, and the small lockbox from the closet that held our marriage license, our passports, and the title to my truck. I took my laptop. I took the stapled packet of divorce papers. Before I left, I walked through the house room by room, taking pictures with my phone. The TV, the furniture, the shelves, the kitchen appliances. It felt paranoid, but Tessa's voice echoed in my head, keep it documented. In the bedroom, I paused at our wedding photo on the dresser. Haley was laughing in it, head tilted back, eyes closed like the world was kind. I was smiling too, and the smile looked real. I turned the frame face down. Then I walked out and locked the door behind me. I didn't come to argue. I came to deliver. Night driving does something to the mind. The road becomes a ribbon you feed into the dark, and the dark eats it without thanks. The headlights carve out a small, temporary world. Everything beyond that is imagination. And imagination is not your friend when you're 2 hours away from finding your wife in a place she promised she wasn't. The highway signs flashed by. Exits for towns I'd never had a reason to visit. Gas stations with buzzing lights. Billboards for lawyers and used cars and an amusement park that looked like it hadn't been amused in a decade. My hands stayed steady on the wheel. My body was calm, like it had been trained for emergencies. In operations, emergencies are just problems with louder voices. You don't panic, you triage. But my thoughts were a swarm. I replayed the morning like it was security footage. Haley making a show of checking her dad's address, even though she could have driven there with her eyes closed. Haley insisting she'd keep her location on, as if that was a gift. Haley kissing me, then stepping back too fast like she didn't want to linger in something real. She'd been packing with purpose. She'd been packing like a woman going somewhere she wanted to look good. I passed a rest stop and almost pulled in. Not to sleep, to breathe. But I didn't. Stopping felt like giving the lie more room to spread. My phone was in the cup holder, face down, like a guilty thing. I'd turned it back on before leaving. Just long enough to see if she'd text again. She had. Just got out of the shower. Dad snoring like a chainsaw Lowell. I'm gonna knock out. I pictured her texting that with wet hair, wearing a towel, laughing silently at how easy it was. At the next exit, I did pull off. Not because I needed rest, but because I needed certainty. There was a 24-hour grocery store with a pharmacy. I went in, bought a cheap coffee and a pack of gum, and sat at a small table near the windows where you could watch the parking lot and pretend you were a normal person. I opened my bank app again. The charge was still there, bold as a bruise. I opened our joint account history. There were other charges, too, small ones that looked innocent on their own, boutique clothing store, a nail salon, a lingerie shop disguised under a brand name that would mean nothing to most men. They were spread out, not dramatic, like she'd been preparing for this trip in pieces. My mind did something strange then. It stopped being sad. Sadness is soft. It blurs edges. It makes you want to curl up and disappear. What replaced it was hard and sharp. It made the world look crisp, like someone had turned the contrast up. I opened the resort's website again and found the address. I copied it into my Maps app. Stonewater was tucked between a lake and a state park, the kind of place people go to reconnect. There were pictures of couples holding hands on a dock, smiling like they'd never been disappointed in their lives. The drive time said 1 hour and 48 minutes. I looked up at the store's security camera, the little black dome in the ceiling. For a second, I felt like someone was watching me, and not just the bored teenager at the register. Maybe it was my future self. I drove again. The road narrowed as the city fell away. Trees crowded closer. The air got darker, heavier, like it was thick with old secrets. I turned onto a smaller highway where the streetlights disappeared and the night felt alive. It reminded me of the stories my mother used to tell about the woods near her childhood house, how the trees could hide anything, how people could get lost even when they knew the way. A deer stood at the edge of the road and stared at me as I passed. Its eyes reflected my headlights, bright and empty. I thought, that's what it feels like to be seen by someone who doesn't care. When the sign for Stonewater finally appeared, it was lit by soft, friendly lights. Welcome, it said, like it wasn't about to become the ugliest place in my life. I followed the winding road down toward the lake. The resort buildings appeared like a small village. Lodge, cabins, a spa, a restaurant with big windows glowing warm. Everything looked expensive and calm. My stomach tightened. I pulled into the parking lot and sat for a moment with the engine running. My breath fogged again. I could smell pine through the vents. I took the papers from the passenger seat. They were in a plain folder, no drama. I held them in both hands and felt the weight of them. Not heavy, but final. In my mind, I heard Tessa. No theatrics. I turned the engine off. The silence fell hard. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a text. It was a location ping. Haley's shared location, the thing she'd offered like a comforting blanket, had refreshed. It dropped a pin right where I was sitting. Stonewater Couples Retreat. I stared at the screen, and for the first time all night, a laugh tried to claw its way out of me. Not humor, something close to madness. She'd left the location on because she believed I wouldn't come. People like Haley don't fear consequences. They fear inconvenience. They fear embarrassment. They fear being seen without their makeup. I opened the door and stepped into the cold. The lodge doors were ahead, framed in warm light, like an invitation. I walked toward them with the folder in my hand. I didn't come to make a scene. I came to end something. And the worst part was, a small part of me still hoped I was wrong. That hope was gone the moment the automatic doors slid open and I saw her. Haley was at the front desk. She wasn't wearing grief. She was wearing a soft cream sweater that hugged her like it cost more than my first car. Her hair was down, shiny and loose, and her cheeks had that faint pink tint she always got after wine. She laughed at something the clerk said, head tilted like she was practicing charm for a camera. And beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched, stood a man with a tan that said he didn't work under fluorescent lights. He had an easy grin, a hand resting on the edge of the counter like he owned it. He leaned in and murmured something into Haley's ear. She smiled without even looking at him. It wasn't a surprised smile. It was a familiar one. A "this is ours" smile. My body went cold and hot at the same time. Haley turned slightly, and her eyes drifted across the lobby, scanning the way people scan when they're waiting for someone. She looked right at me. Her smile froze. For 1 second, her face did something raw. The polished mask slipped. There was shock, yes, but there was also something else. Annoyance. Like I'd shown up at the wrong time. Then the mask snapped back into place. "Nate," she said, voice bright, too bright. "What are you?" The man beside her turned and looked me up and down, taking inventory. He was taller than me by a couple inches, broader in the shoulders. He wore a watch that could have paid a month of mortgage. His eyes flicked to the folder in my hand, and he smirked like he already knew the punchline. I walked forward until I was close enough to smell Haley's perfume. Same perfume. Different place. "Hi," I said. My voice surprised me. It was steady, almost calm. Haley laughed lightly, the laugh she used when she wanted to smooth something sharp. This is crazy," she said. Your dad isn't sick," I said. The words landed between us like a dropped plate. The desk clerk's smile faded. A couple in robes near the fireplace glanced over. Haley's eyes widened a fraction. "Nate, I called him," I said. "He said you haven't been there in months." Her mouth opened, closed. For the first time in our marriage, she looked genuinely lost. The man beside her, her couple, cleared his throat like he was stepping onto a stage. "Hey," he said, offering his hand. "I'm Aaron." He said it with the same confidence people use when they expect respect by default. I didn't take his hand. My eyes stayed on Haley. "I'm not here to meet your friend," I said. Haley's voice went hard around the edges. "Nate, don't do this here." "Here is perfect," I said. I kept my movements slow. I opened the folder and pulled out the first set of papers. The top page had the court header. The word petition was right there, official and ugly. Haley looked at it and flinched like it was a hot pan. "What is that?" she whispered. "A door," I said, and slid the packet toward her. She didn't touch it. Her nails were immaculate, pale pink. The kind of nails you get done when you're not spending the week in a sick man's house. "Nate," she said, softer now. "Please, let's talk upstairs." "There's nothing upstairs that makes this better," I said. Aaron laughed under his breath, like the whole thing was entertainment. Haley shot him a warning look, and that look told me everything I needed to know. She cared what he thought. She cared enough to manage him even now. "Nate," she said again, and the tone shifted, the tone she used when she wanted control. "You don't understand. This is a couple's retreat," I finished. "Paid with our money." Her cheeks flushed deeper. I was going to pay it back. "With what?" I asked. "The money you spent on lingerie?" Her eyes flashed. I went through our bank account," I said. "The one you share when it benefits you." The desk clerk cleared her throat. "Ma'am," she said cautiously, "is everything okay?" Haley turned to the clerk with a smile that looked pasted on. "Yes," she said. "It's just a misunderstanding." I almost admired her. Even cornered, she still tried to repaint reality with her mouth. "It's not a misunderstanding," I said, and kept my voice low. "It's a choice." Aaron leaned toward Haley, whispering, but I could hear the edge of irritation in his voice. "Let's just go. He's making a scene." I looked at him then. He had the face of someone who'd never been told no. He had that slight shine of arrogance, like a coat of wax. He was used to winning by smiling. "Don't tell her what I'm doing," I said. "Tell her what she did." Aaron's smile tightened. "Buddy, I don't know your situation." "You know enough," I said. Haley's hands finally moved. She grabbed the packet with both hands like it might bite. Her eyes skimmed the top page, and the color drained from her face. "This is real," she whispered. "It's filed," I said. "You've been served." She looked up at me, and for a brief moment I saw the person I married, the person who cried at sad movies and held my hand in hospitals, the person I thought I knew. Then that person disappeared behind anger. "You can't just," she hissed. "You can't do this over one mistake." "One mistake is leaving the oven on," I said. "This is a week-long lie with a price tag." Aaron shifted closer, protective now, like he was playing hero. "Hey," he said, voice hard. "Back off. You're not going to talk to her like that." I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I looked at Haley instead. "This is the last time I speak to you without a lawyer," I said. "You can call Tessa Dyer. Her number is on the papers. Don't come home without telling me first. Don't touch the joint account again." Haley's eyes were wet now, but I could tell the tears were doing double duty, hurt and strategy. "Nate," she said, voice breaking. "Please. I love you." Aaron made a small sound of disgust, like love was embarrassing. I watched Haley's face as she said it, and I knew. If she loved anything, she loved being safe, being admired, being right. She loved the story of us, not the work of us. I nodded once, like I'd heard her. Then I turned and walked away. Behind me, her voice rose. "Nate, Nate, don't you walk away." I kept walking. The lodge doors slid open, and cold air hit my face like reality. I stepped outside into the night. In the parking lot, the lake was a black sheet, smooth and indifferent. The lights from the lodge reflected in it like thin gold cracks. My hands didn't shake until I got to my truck. I sat behind the wheel and stared at the windshield, breathing hard, like I'd just run a mile. My phone started buzzing. Calls, texts. Missed calls stacking like bricks. "Haley, Haley, Haley." I watched it for a moment, then turned the phone face down. I started the engine. I left before she could rewrite the story. And as I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw Aaron in the side mirror, sprinting after my truck like a man who'd just realized the game wasn't fun anymore. On the drive home, the road looked different. It's the same asphalt, same lines, same trees, but once you've seen the thing you didn't want to see, everything feels like it's been repainted. The world gets a little meaner. The shadows look like they're laughing. My phone didn't stop buzzing. At first it was calls, rapid, desperate, one after another. Then texts piled in like a crowd pushing at a door. "Please answer." "Why are you doing this?" "You're embarrassing me." "Call me back right now." "I can explain." "This is insane." "You're acting like a stranger." "I'm sorry." "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Then the tone shifted. "You're going to regret this." "Do you want to ruin my life?" My dad really is sick. I just didn't want you to worry. Stop being dramatic. You're not perfect either. I didn't read them all. I didn't need to. Haley's moods move fast. She goes from tears to teeth the way some people change channels. Every time the phone buzzed, my chest tightened, but I kept my hands steady. I kept the speed limit. I kept my headlights on. I kept my life inside the lines because there was no part of me that wanted to give her ammunition. Halfway home, I pulled into another gas station and went inside to use the bathroom. In the mirror above the sink, I looked normal. A man in a hoodie, stubble, tired eyes. The kind of guy you'd pass in a grocery store without noticing. That made me angry. How could something this huge happen while you still look like you? How could your whole future be on fire and your face still be the same shape? When I came out, I checked my voicemail. Mostly nothing but Haley's breathing and a few words choked out between sobs. Then there was a call from a number I didn't recognize. It left a short message. Mr. Kessler, this is Stonewater Guest Services. We need to speak with you regarding an incident in the lobby. Incident, like I'd spilled a drink. I didn't call back. I drove the rest of the way in a kind of numb focus. At home, the house greeted me with the same stale warmth. The rosemary candle smell had faded. Without Haley, the place felt like a rental you've already decided to leave. I went straight to the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and started doing what I do when something breaks. I gathered data. I downloaded the last 6 months of bank statements. I highlighted every charge that didn't match my memory. I made a spreadsheet because it's hard to argue with columns. Then I did what Tessa told me. I opened a new account under my name only and transferred exactly half of what was in joint checking. I printed the confirmation. I took a photo of the screen. I emailed the receipts to myself. I changed the password on my email, not because I thought Haley would hack it like a movie villain, but because she'd had access to my phone before. She knew my habits. And when someone lies easily, you stop assuming they have limits. At 2:11 a.m., my phone buzzed again. A text from Haley's mother. Nate, please call us. We are worried. Haley is hysterical. My stomach tightened, but not with guilt, with calculation. Haley's parents liked me. They liked me because I was steady, because I fixed things, because I didn't drink too much at family barbecues or pick fights with uncles. Haley liked me for the same reasons, but she'd come to resent them. Steady looks like boring when you're addicted to excitement. I called her mother back because the truth was going to come out anyway, and I wanted it to come out clean. Her mother answered on the first ring, voice already wet. Nate, she cried. What's happening? Haley says you showed up at some place and... A resort, I said. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. What? She told you I went crazy, right? I asked. She said you served her papers in front of strangers, her mother said, shaky. She said you humiliated her. Did she mention the part where she lied about Frank being sick? I asked. Her mother's breathing changed. Frank? I called him, I said. He's fine. She's not with him. She's at a couple's resort with someone else, and she paid with our joint account. I heard a man's voice in the background, her father, Doug, muttering, angry, confused. Her mother's voice went small. Nate, are you sure? I wanted to tell her no. I wanted to tell her it was a mistake. I wanted to give her the comfort of a story with a fix. But I didn't. I'm sure, I said. There was a long silence, and in that silence I felt the first crack in Haley's safety net. Her mother whispered, Oh my God. Doug came on the line. His voice sounded like gravel. Nate, he said, where is she? Stonewater, I said. Or she was. I left. Doug's breathing was heavy, like he was walking around the house. She said her dad was sick? Yes. Doug let out a low sound that wasn't quite a curse, but close. Listen, he said. Whatever she did, she's still our daughter. We're going to talk to her. But Nate, don't do anything stupid. The funny thing was, nobody had to tell Haley that. They had to tell me. I'm not, I said. I'm doing it the legal way. Doug exhaled. Okay. We'll call you tomorrow. Get some sleep. I hung up and stared at the dark window above the sink. My reflection stared back. A faint ghost of a man. Then my phone buzzed again. A message from Aaron. It wasn't a number I had saved. It was just a new thread. Bro, you really showed up here like that? You're unhinged. Tell Haley you'll talk like an adult? I read it twice, and then something clicked. Aaron had my number. Haley could have given it to him, sure, but my number wasn't the only thing in that joint account. My name was on that account. My name was tied to every payment. I pulled up the Stonewater confirmation email. And there it was in the details I'd downloaded. The reservation had been made under the name H. Kessler, Haley's initials, but the payment information listed my name. I dug deeper, checking the merchant's additional charges. There was a second charge pending now, $480. Anniversary upgrade, the description said. I stared at the word anniversary until it turned ugly. I pictured Aaron leaning over a concierge desk, flashing a smile, saying something like, "It's our anniversary. Can you do something special?" While Haley laughed into her hand. Except, the upgrade wasn't just a bottle of wine, it was a package with a note. Add-on services included. I didn't know what services meant, and I didn't want to. Not in detail, not in images. I didn't need to. The betrayal was already complete. What mattered was this. Aaron wasn't just sleeping with my wife, he was spending like my wife, using her identity, her access, her comfort with the joint account. If he'd convinced Haley to put my name on payment, he'd convinced her of more than a trip. He'd convinced her to treat our marriage like a wallet. And if he could do that once, he could do it again. I took a screenshot of Aaron's message. Then I blocked his number. I blocked Haley's too. There was a small relief in that, like closing a door against wind. The quiet that followed was heavy, but it was mine. I slept in short bursts, waking with my heart racing, checking the phone out of habit, then remembering I'd cut the line. At 6:03 a.m., the sun came up pale and weak, like it didn't want to be here either. I made coffee. I sat at the table with my laptop and my spreadsheet. I watched the numbers, and I started planning what came next. Because the drive to the resort wasn't the revenge, it was the beginning of the war. That afternoon, an email from Stonewater Guest Services landed in my inbox. Subject, urgent, payment confirmation. They thanked me for my recent visit and said there was confusion regarding payment authorization. They wanted me to call? I did. A woman named Marlene pulled up the reservation and asked if additional charges were legitimate. I told her clearly that anything after I served Haley was not authorized. I asked for the itemized invoice, every charge, every name, every note. There was a pause on the line, professional, careful. Then Marlene said, "The anniversary upgrade was requested by the male guest. Aaron." When I hung up, I forwarded the invoice request to my lawyer, and I stared at the screen until the anger sharpened into something colder. Because now I had what I needed. Not rumors, not feelings. Paper. People think revenge is a fire. A single big blaze, bright and quick. They're wrong. Real revenge is a slow leak in someone's life. It's tightening screws they didn't even notice were loose until the whole structure starts to groan. Before you can tighten anything, you have to know where to put your hands. Aaron had texted me. That was my first piece of information. He thought he could talk to me like I was a customer who needed calming. He thought I would negotiate. The second piece of information was the invoice. Stonewater emailed it within an hour. It included the names on the reservation, Haley's full name and Aaron's full name. It also listed his home address for billing confirmation, which meant the man was careless. I didn't do anything with it yet. I sent it to Tessa. Then I did what I always do when I'm trying to understand a system. I mapped it. Aaron's address was in a newer apartment complex across town. Not fancy, but clean. The kind of place with a gym no one uses and a pool that smells like chlorine and disappointment. I didn't go there. Not yet. Instead, I searched his name online. Not deep web nonsense. Just the ordinary trail every modern person leaves. A LinkedIn profile, a couple of charity photos, a half-updated Instagram where he posted gym selfies and cocktails with captions like grinding. He worked in sales for a medical device company, commission-based. That explained the tan and the watch. That explained the confidence, too. Sales guys are trained to believe the world owes them a yes. He also posted a lot about integrity and family values, which would have been funny if it didn't make my teeth grind. I didn't message him. I didn't post anything public. I didn't leave comments. I just watched. On his Instagram story, he posted a photo that afternoon, a shot of a laptop and a coffee, captioned, "Back to the grind." No ring visible. No mention of a wife. No mention of Haley. Like the retreat had been a weekend hobby, that told me something else. Aaron wasn't in love. Aaron was in consumption. I drove to my job the next morning and did the boring work of acting normal. I answered emails. I checked shipping logs. I talked to coworkers about a broken pallet jack like it mattered. But every few hours, I checked Aaron's digital footprints like a man checking the weather before a storm. At lunch, I stepped outside and called Tessa again. "I have his name and address," I said. "I'm not surprised," she said. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking I want him out of our lives." "You can't control him," she said, "but you can create consequences. Legally." I don't want to do anything illegal, I said, and I meant it. Not out of moral purity, but because I wasn't going to ruin myself for their fun. Tessa exhaled. Good. Then here's what we can do. We can send a cease and desist regarding harassment if he contacts you. We can request discovery in the divorce for financial records, and if he used your identity for charges, we can pursue civil remedies. Civil? I repeated. Meaning money, she said. I stared at a patch of dirty snow by the curb. He doesn't care about my feelings, I said, but he'll care about money. Most people do, Tessa said. After work, I drove past Aaron's apartment complex. I didn't go in. I just watched the entrance from across the street like I was waiting for a pizza delivery. He came out around 6:40 p.m., wearing a hoodie and gym bag slung over his shoulder. He walked like he wanted the world to notice him, chest forward, head high. He got into a black SUV that looked leased. I followed at a distance, not close enough to be obvious, not far enough to lose him. I felt something ugly in myself as I did it. Not thrill, not fear, just a cold focus, like I was hunting down a shipment that had gone missing. Aaron drove to a strip mall where a big box gym glowed blue and bright. He parked near the entrance and walked in without looking around. I parked farther away, near a row of empty spaces by a dark corner of the lot. I sat with the engine off, watching the door. It was absurd, sitting in my truck like a private investigator in a cheap movie, but it was also real, because real life is often absurd, and people still suffer anyway. After an hour, he came back out, hair damp, face flushed. He looked satisfied with himself, like he'd burned off guilt with a treadmill. He walked toward his SUV. I got out of my truck and walked too, cutting the angle so we met near the row of carts by the curb. He didn't see me until I was right there. His eyes widened, then his mouth twisted into that half-smile again, like he couldn't help himself. Man, he said, you're really committed to this, huh? I didn't answer. I stepped closer, keeping my hands visible. No sudden moves, no threats. Aaron's smile faltered. Look, I don't know what Haley told you, but she told me her dad was sick, I said. She lied. Aaron shrugged like it was a minor detail. That's between you two. It became between me and you when you spent my money, I said. His eyebrows lifted. Your money? Dude, she paid for that. Joint account, I said. My name on it. And Stonewater says you requested the anniversary upgrade. A flash of irritation crossed his face. He didn't like being confronted with specifics. That's nothing, he said. It's a package. Relax. I stepped closer. The air between us smelled like sweat and car exhaust. Here's what's going to happen, I said quietly. You're going to stop contacting me. You're going to stop contacting Haley, and you're going to stop using her like a credit card. Aaron laughed, but it was brittle. You don't get to tell me what to do. No, I said. I get to tell you what I'm going to do. He watched me, eyes narrowing. And what's that? I pulled my phone out and showed him the Stonewater invoice, the line item with his name next to the upgrade request. I didn't shove it in his face, I just let him see it. Then I swiped to the next screen, a draft email addressed to his company's HR contact and compliance hotline, already written, already attached with the invoice and his text message to me. His face changed, the wax coat cracked. You can't, he started. I can, I said, and if you keep pushing, I will. They'll ask questions. Sales companies love questions. He took a step back, scanning around the parking lot. People were walking to their cars, laughing, living. Nobody was watching us. Nobody cared. I didn't do anything illegal, he said, voice lower now. You used my name for a couple's retreat, I said. You requested add-ons after I served her. You contacted me to intimidate me. You want to explain that to your employer? You want your boss asking why you need anniversary upgrades with married women? Aaron's jaw worked like he was chewing anger. This is blackmail, he said. It's documentation, I said. There's a difference. His eyes flicked to my hands again. He expected violence. He wanted violence. Violence would make him a victim. I wasn't going to give him that. Instead, I leaned in close enough that only he could hear me over the distant traffic. You're not special, I said. You're not dangerous. You're just loud. And loud men panic when the room gets quiet. I stepped back. Aaron swallowed. His throat bobbed. You're crazy, he whispered. Maybe, I said. But I'm careful. For a long second, we stared at each other. Then Aaron's phone buzzed. He glanced down, and his face softened. A smile tried to come back. He looked up at me with a smug tilt. She's calling, he said. I didn't move. I didn't blink. Tell her, I said, that I'm not the guy she thought I was. Aaron held my gaze for one more beat, then got into his SUV and slammed the door. He peeled out of the parking lot too fast, tires chirping on the cold pavement. I watched the red taillights vanish, and I felt something settle in my chest. Not satisfaction, a direction. Because now he knew I wasn't going to punch him. I was going to dismantle him. And the best part was, all I needed to do it was paper. Haley showed up 2 nights later. I was in the living room, lights low, TV off, sitting on the couch like it was a stakeout, not because I was waiting for her, because I knew she wouldn't be able to resist. People like Haley don't leave things unfinished. They can't tolerate a room where they're not in control. The first sign was the headlights sweeping across the wall through the blinds. The second was the knock. Not soft, not timid, the kind of knock that assumes the door will obey. I didn't move right away. I let the quiet stretch. I wanted to hear her react to being ignored. "Open up," she called, voice tight. "Nate, I know you're in there." I walked to the hallway mirror and looked at myself. My face was calm. My eyes were tired. Then I did what Tessa told me to do. I started a video recording on my phone and put it in my shirt pocket, lens out. I opened the door, but I stayed behind it, keeping the chain latched. The chain was old and thin, and the metal looked tired. It wasn't a fortress. It was a boundary. Haley stood on the porch in a wool coat. Hair done, makeup perfect. She looked like she was going to a dinner party, not begging her husband to talk. Her eyes locked onto mine, and for a second I saw relief, like she'd been drowning and finally saw the shore. Then her face changed. What is that?" she snapped, nodding at the chain. "A chain," I said. She pushed her hands against the door like she could intimidate it. "Let me in." "No," I said. Her smile appeared, sharp and practiced. "Seriously? You're locking me out of my own house?" "Not locking you out," I said. "I'm talking to you." Haley's eyes flashed. "This is ridiculous." "You lied," I said. "You used our money. You brought someone into our marriage. I'm done." She laughed, too loud. "You're done? Nate, this is a tantrum." I waited. I let her words hang there. Then I said, "Say that again." She blinked. "What?" "Say I'm having a tantrum," I said, voice calm. "Say it on camera." Her gaze flicked to my shirt pocket. She'd noticed the recording. Her expression tightened. "Nate," she hissed, lowering her voice. "Are you recording me? What is wrong with you?" "What was wrong with you when you lied about your dad?" I asked. That hit. It landed deep. Her eyes softened for a moment, and then the tears came. Real this time, or real enough. "I didn't know what to say," she whispered. I felt trapped. "Trapped," I repeated. "I made a mistake," she said, and her voice cracked. "I didn't mean for it to go that far, I swear." I watched her face, trying to find truth in it like you try to find a vein under skin. "Where's Aaron?" I asked. Her eyes flicked away. Too fast. "I don't know," she lied. I nodded slowly. "You do." She flared again. "Why are you obsessed with him? This is about us." "No," I said. This is about reality." She wiped her cheek like she was angry at the tears. "He's not. He's just a friend." I almost smiled. That was the oldest line in the book, and she delivered it like she'd invented it. "A friend you took to a couples retreat," I said. Her mouth twisted. "It wasn't like that." "Stonewater calls it the two of us. Deluxe," I said. "That's what the invoice says." Her face went pale. You called them?" "Yes," I said. She stared at me like I'd broken a rule. "You weren't supposed to do that," she whispered. There it was. The entitlement. The idea that even when she betrays you, you're still supposed to protect her comfort. Haley stepped closer, hands pressed to the door, voice turning soft and intimate. "Nate, please. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. We can go to counseling. I'll quit my job if you want. No," I said. The word was simple. It felt like dropping a stone into water. Her face froze. "What do you mean, no?" she said. "I mean no," I repeated. "I'm not negotiating." Her eyes went hard. The tears stopped instantly, like someone turned off a faucet. "You think you're so righteous," she snapped. "You think you're better than me because you're calm. But you're not calm. You're cruel." I felt something inside me tighten. Not anger, not pain, recognition. Haley couldn't stand calm because calm meant she couldn't control the narrative. Calm meant she couldn't provoke a scene, couldn't point at my behavior and say, "See, That's why I did it. I kept my voice low. I'm not cruel, I said. I'm finished. She laughed again, sharp. Finished? You can't just toss me out like trash. I'm not tossing you out, I said. You're staying with your parents. You'll coordinate with my lawyer to pick up your things. I'll be reasonable. Reasonable, she spat. You're humiliating me. You humiliated yourself, I said. Her eyes widened. The line hit, and for a second she looked like she might swing at the door. Instead, she did something worse. She leaned in and smiled. I can ruin you, she whispered. I didn't move. Try, I said. Her smile faded. She didn't expect that. You don't know what I've told people, she said. I don't care, I said. Truth doesn't need your permission. Haley stared at me for a long moment, searching for a crack. She didn't find one. Finally, she stepped back, shaking her head like I was disappointing. This isn't over, she said. It is for me, I said. She turned sharply and walked down the steps, heels clicking on the porch boards. Her car door slammed. As she reversed out of the driveway, she rolled down the window and shouted one last thing, voice echoing down the street. You're going to be alone forever. Then she drove away. I stood behind the door with my hand still on the chain. The house was quiet again. I stopped the recording. I saved it to a folder labeled Evidence, because that's the kind of man I was becoming. Then I sat at my kitchen table and opened the draft email to Aaron's company again. I didn't send it, not yet. I wanted the timing right. Revenge, like any operation, works best when you control the schedule. And Haley had just given me the green light. She'd threatened me. Now everything I did would look like a response, a defense, a man protecting himself. That's the trick. You don't swing first. You let them throw the first punch, then you make sure the world sees who started it. The next time Aaron's face showed up in my life, it wasn't in a parking lot. It was on a screen. I was at my desk at work, pretending to care about a delayed shipment, when a coworker wandered by with her phone in hand. You good? She asked, casual. Yeah, I lied. She glanced at my screen and frowned. You look like you're reading a ransom note. Something like that, I said. After she walked away, I minimized the spreadsheets and opened Aaron's Instagram again. He hadn't posted since the back to the grind story. No new gym photos, no cocktails, nothing. That was interesting. People like Aaron don't go quiet unless something hits them. I switched to his tagged photos. That's where the truth usually lives. People can curate their own page, but they can't control what other people post. And there it was. A photo from 2 weeks ago, tagged by a woman with glossy hair and a smile so perfect it looked rehearsed. She was holding Aaron's hand, and on her finger was a ring that caught the light like a small flare. Caption? Counting down. Can't wait to marry you. My stomach didn't drop this time. It steadied. Her name was Brooke. Her profile was public. Her whole life was there in bright photos, bridal shower planning, wine nights, inspirational quotes about loyalty. I scrolled without emotion, like I was reviewing a report. If Aaron was engaged, then Haley wasn't a romance. She was a side project. And if Haley didn't know, then she'd been played the way she played me. The thought should have made me feel better. It didn't. It made me colder. Because now there were two choices. Let Brooke marry a man who treats fidelity like an optional add-on, or tell her. I stared at Brooke's profile picture, the bright smile, the expectation in her eyes. I imagined her stepping into a future that was already rotten. My finger hovered over the message button, and I remembered Tessa's voice. Stay clean. I didn't send a message through Instagram. That would look personal. That would look petty. Instead, I did something boring. I drafted an email. No insults, no threats, no dramatic language, just facts. Subject, information you deserve to have. I attached the Stonewater invoice. I attached Aaron's text to me. I attached a screenshot of the joint account charge with my name on it. Then I wrote 2 sentences. Brooke, I don't know you. I wish I didn't have to send this. But your fiancé spent my joint marital funds on a couples retreat with my wife, Haley. I'm sending this so you can make informed choices. That was it. I didn't mention love. I didn't mention morals. I didn't tell her what to do. I just handed her the truth the way I'd handed Haley the papers. I found Brooke's email address in her Instagram bio. She used it for collabs, because of course she did. I stared at the send button for a long moment. Then I clicked it. The email left my outbox with a quiet whoosh that sounded like a door locking. For a second, I felt nothing. Then my hands started to tremble. Not guilt, adrenaline. Because that was a line crossed. A new version of me stepping into daylight. I sat very still until the shaking passed. At 4:12 p.m., my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. A minute later, it buzzed again. Then again. On the fourth call, I answered, because I wanted to hear the sound of consequences. A man's voice exploded into my ear. "You piece of... Aaron." I held the phone away for a moment until the worst of the words burned out. "You sent her something," he snarled. I kept my voice calm. "I sent her the truth." "You're trying to ruin my life," he said. "No," I said. "You did that. I just stopped hiding it." His breathing was heavy, angry. "Take it back." "You can't take truth back," I said. "You don't know who you're messing with," he snapped. I almost smiled again. The classic line, the one men say when they're running out of power. "I know exactly who I'm messing with," I said, a salesman who thought my marriage was a discount. He made a noise that sounded like a growl. "I'm coming to your job," he said. "Okay," I said. He paused. "What?" "Come," I said. "Bring witnesses." The line went gone. I sat for a moment, phone still in hand, listening to the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant beep of warehouse equipment. Then I did the next boring thing. I walked to my boss's office. My boss, Martin, looked up from his computer. He had the tired face of a man who'd been promoted too many times. "What's up?" he asked. "A guy might show up here looking for me," I said. Martin's eyebrows lifted. "Is this a work thing?" "No," I said. "It's personal, but I don't want it to become a work thing." Martin leaned back. "Do we need security?" "Maybe," I said. "I'm not looking for trouble. I'm trying to avoid it." Martin watched my face for a moment, then nodded. "I'll tell the front desk," he said. "You want to go home?" "No," I said. "I want to finish my shift." Martin's mouth twitched. Respect, maybe, or concern. "Okay," he said. "But if he shows up, you don't engage. You get someone." "Deal," I said. I went back to my desk, and the world continued to spin like nothing had happened. At 5:07 p.m., the front door alarm chimed. I looked up. Aaron walked in like he owned the place. He wore a nice jacket, like he'd dressed for the role of wronged man. His eyes scanned the room until they found me, and then his face tightened. He marched straight toward my desk. Coworkers looked up, curious. Warehouse guys paused mid-lift. A secretary near the front desk stood, phone in hand. Aaron stopped 2 feet from me, fists clenched. "You think you're clever," he hissed. I stood slowly, keeping my hands open, palms visible. Calm, calm, calm. "Hi, Aaron," I said, like we were at a barbecue. "You had no right," he said, voice rising. "You had no—" "Don't shout," I said. "This is my workplace." He stepped closer. I smelled cologne and anger. "I'll make you regret it," he said. I glanced past him. Martin was already walking toward us with a security guy from the building, an older man with a radio clipped to his belt. Aaron noticed them too, and his eyes flicked, calculating. He didn't want consequences. He wanted drama without fallout. "Say it again," I said softly. Aaron's jaw worked. "What?" "Say you're going to make me regret it," I said. "Say it while they're here." His face flushed. He realized the trap. The security guy stepped up. "Sir," he said, calm but firm. "You can't cause a disturbance here." Aaron's eyes snapped to the security guy. "This is between me and him?" "Not in this building," the security guy said. Martin put a hand up. "Aaron, is it?" he asked. "You need to leave." Aaron's chest rose and fell fast. For a second, I thought he might swing. That's what he wanted deep down. A punch, a story where he could say I deserved it. But Aaron wasn't brave. He was theatrical. He leaned in close to me, voice low, venomous. "This isn't done," he whispered. I met his eyes. "It is for Brooke," I said. "And it's going to be for your job too if you come back." His eyes widened. He backed away a step like he'd touched something hot. The security guy took Aaron's elbow and guided him toward the door. Aaron threw one last look over his shoulder, full of hate and panic. Then he was gone. The warehouse noise resumed. People went back to work, but their eyes lingered on me like I'd become a different kind of coworker, one with a story. I sat back down and stared at my screen. My hands weren't shaking now. I felt clean. Because I hadn't hit him. I hadn't screamed. I'd just let him show everyone what he was. And now there was no going back. Because Brooke had the truth. Aaron had lost control. And Haley still thought she was the one holding the strings. She had no idea the whole puppet show was about to collapse. Courthouses smell like old paper and tired people. Even the newer ones do. Tessa met me at the front steps on Monday morning. Coffee in hand, blazer sharp, eyes alert. She looked like she belonged there. I looked like a guy who accidentally wandered into a place where his life could be rearranged by strangers. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm here," I said. "That's enough," she said. Inside, we sat in a waiting area with hard benches and posters about legal aid. Haley arrived 10 minutes later with her lawyer, a man with shiny hair and a suit that looked expensive in a desperate way. Haley didn't look at me at first. She stared straight ahead, jaw tight, as if refusing to acknowledge me would make me less real. Then her gaze flicked over and her eyes locked onto mine. There was hate there, and something like fear. Tessa leaned close. "Remember," she murmured, "no interaction. Let them perform for the judge." The hearing was about the accounts, about the disputed charges, about the risk of dissipation of marital assets, which is a phrase that sounds like science and feels like betrayal. We went into a small courtroom, not the dramatic kind. No jury, no spectators, just a judge, a clerk, and two broken people with their lawyers. The judge was an older woman with glasses and the kind of expression that said she'd heard every version of, "It's not what it looks like." Tessa spoke first, calm, precise. She presented the bank statements, the Stonewater invoice, the timeline. Haley served on Friday, additional charges attempted after service, emails confirming the male guest requested upgrades. Haley's lawyer stood and began his performance, voice smooth. "Your Honor, my client admits she made an error in judgment, but the petitioner's actions are retaliatory and excessive." The judge held up a hand. "Counsel," she said, "we're not here to discuss feelings. We're here to prevent financial harm." Haley's face tightened. Her lawyer pivoted. "The petitioner transferred funds out of the joint account. Half," Tessa said calmly. "Documented, transparent, reasonable." The judge looked at me briefly. "Mr. Kessler," she asked, "did you transfer half of the joint funds into a separate account?" "Yes," I said. "Why?" she asked. "Because my wife treated our marriage like a debit card." I swallowed. "To prevent further unauthorized charges," I said. The judge nodded. "Reasonable," she said, and wrote something. Haley made a small sound, like a scoff. The judge's eyes snapped up. "Mrs. Kessler," she said, "do you have anything to add?" Haley stood, and for a moment I saw her try to arrange her face into that polished mask. But the courtroom wasn't Instagram. The lighting was unforgiving. The stakes were real. "My husband is punishing me," Haley said, voice shaking. "He wants to destroy me because I made a mistake." The judge stared at her. "Did you authorize the Stonewater charges?" Haley hesitated. Tessa's pen stopped moving. Haley's lawyer touched her elbow, a warning. "Yes," Haley said finally, and her voice was small. "I authorized the initial booking." "And the additional charges after service?" the judge asked. Haley swallowed. Her eyes flicked to her lawyer, then to me. "No," she said. The judge's eyebrows lifted. "Then who did?" Haley's throat worked like she was trying to swallow a stone. "I don't know," she whispered. The judge held her gaze. "You don't know who used your joint account to attempt additional charges?" Haley's eyes flashed, anger rising to cover fear. "I said I don't know." The judge leaned back slightly. "Then you should find out," she said, "because this court is going to issue a temporary order freezing certain withdrawals and requiring both parties to consent for expenditures over a set amount. Additionally, Mrs. Kessler, you are ordered not to incur new joint debt." Haley's face went pale. Her lawyer started to object, and the judge cut him off with a look. "I've seen this before," the judge said. "One party drains accounts and then claims confusion. Not here, not today." The clerk read out the terms, and I listened as my marriage was turned into bullet points. Outside the courtroom, Haley finally looked at me fully. Her eyes were bright with tears and fury. "You're ruining me," she hissed. Tessa stepped between us smoothly like a door closing. "All communication goes through counsel," she said. Haley's lawyer tugged her arm. "Haley," he murmured, "come on." Haley shook him off and leaned toward me anyway, voice low enough that only I could hear. "Aaron says you contacted his fiancée," she whispered. I didn't react. I didn't blink. Haley's smile appeared, thin and nasty. "You think you're so smart," she said, "but you don't know what you just started." I met her eyes. "I started nothing," I said quietly. "I ended something." Her face twisted. For a second, I thought she might slap me right there in the hallway. That would have been a gift. cameras, witnesses, consequences. Instead, she turned sharply and stormed toward the exit, heels clicking like gunfire on the tile. As she pushed through the glass doors, she looked back one last time, face tight with hatred. And in that moment, I felt it. Not pity, not love, a strange, detached curiosity. How far would she go to avoid admitting she'd done this to herself? The answer came later that night, in the form of a post. My coworker texted me a screenshot at 11:46 p.m. Haley had posted a long, tearful message on social media about emotional abuse, control, and a man who wants to punish a woman for being human. She didn't name me, but she didn't have to. The comments were full of sympathy. People telling her she was so strong. People telling her to get safe. People who didn't know anything but wanted to feel like heroes. My chest tightened. Not because of the lie itself, because now she'd done it in public, now she'd invited the crowd into our marriage, and crowds are hungry. I stared at the screenshot for a long time, the words blurred by rage. Then I opened my folder labeled Evidence. I watched the video of Haley at my door threatening to ruin me. I listened to her voice, clear as day. I can ruin you. I watched it again. Then I sent it to Tessa with one sentence. Looks like she started it. Tessa replied 5 minutes later. Do not respond publicly. Let's do this the right way. I'll file for an order regarding defamation and harassment. I stared at the word defamation, and I realized Haley had made a mistake bigger than the resort. She'd tried to control the narrative with a lie, and now the narrative was a weapon in my hands. The only question was when to pull the trigger. I didn't respond to Haley's post. Not online, not in public, not where a crowd could twist it into entertainment. Instead, I responded the way I always responded when someone tried to blame me for their mess. I documented, I prepared, I waited. Tessa filed a motion the next day regarding harassing communications and false public statements impacting employment. Legal language that sounded clinical but felt like teeth. Haley's post stayed up. People kept commenting. Some of them were strangers, some were women from her yoga class, some were people I'd met at our wedding who barely remembered my name. The worst part wasn't the lies. It was the way people treated them like a show they could participate in. Like pain was content. At 6:18 p.m., my phone buzzed with an unknown email reply. It was Brooke. Her message was short. No emojis, no curated voice. Nate, thank you. I'm sick. I confronted him. He denied, then admitted some of it. I'm not sure who Haley is, but I'm not marrying him. Please don't contact me again. I'm sorry for what you're going through. I stared at it for a long time, feeling something I couldn't name. Relief? Vindication? Pity for her? Mostly I felt tired. I replied with 2 words. Understood. Take care. Then I deleted Aaron's number from my blocked list and added it again, just in case. At 1:37 a.m., I woke up to a sound outside. Not loud, not a crash. A scrape, like metal against concrete. I sat up in bed, heart racing, listening. Another scrape. My mind clicked into the same mode it used when a warehouse alarm went off. Assess, locate, respond. I slid out of bed, padded to the window, and pulled the blinds aside just enough to see the driveway. My truck sat under the porch light, shadowed, quiet. And next to it was a man. Hood up, head down. Body hunched like he was trying to become smaller than the light. My breath caught. He was crouched near the driver's side, hand moving. The scrape sound again. Something sharp. Keying. My throat tightened with hot anger, but I didn't move. Not yet. I grabbed my phone, started recording, and slipped into the hallway. I didn't grab a weapon. I didn't want a weapon in my hands. I wanted my hands clean. I opened the front door quietly and stepped out onto the porch. The cold air hit my face. The porch boards creaked under my weight. The man froze. He turned slightly, and the porch light caught his face. Aaron. His eyes widened for a split second. Then his mouth twisted into a sneer, like he'd been caught doing something petty and wanted to pretend it was power. You got a problem? He said. I stepped down the porch steps slowly, phone still recording, lens pointed at him. Get away from my truck, I said. He straightened, keys dangling from his hand like a trophy. You ruined my life, he spat. No, I said. I told the truth. Aaron laughed, loud and ugly. You think you're a hero? You're nothing. You're a pathetic little... Back up, I said. He didn't. He stepped closer, chest puffed, trying to make himself bigger in the light. You think Haley's worth all this? He snapped. She's not. She's just... I took a step forward, and he stopped mid-sentence. Not because he was scared of me physically, because of the phone, because of the record. His eyes flicked to it, and I saw the calculation, the fear of consequences. He shifted his weight, then glanced toward the street, where his SUV was parked half a block down. "You're going to call the cops," he said, voice mocking. "No," I said. "I'm going to call my lawyer." He snorted. "Your lawyer can't do anything." "Maybe," I said, "but your probation officer might care." His face changed. Confusion. "What?" he barked. I didn't know if he had a probation officer. I didn't know anything about his record. I didn't need to. I watched his mind do the math. The possibility, the risk. "I'm not on probation," he snapped too fast. "Then you have nothing to worry about," I said. Aaron's nostrils flared. He looked like he wanted to hit me. He looked like he wanted to knock the phone out of my hand. He looked like he wanted an old-fashioned solution, but he couldn't, because there were porch lights and neighbors and cameras and consequences. He threw the keys onto the driveway like a tantrum. They clinked and skittered. "Tell Haley she's a mess," he said, voice low. "Tell her she's not worth it." "I don't talk to Haley," I said. "That's the point." Aaron's eyes flicked again toward the street. Decision made. He backed away slowly, hands up like I was the one with a weapon. "This isn't done," he said again. I almost sighed. "It is for me," I said. Aaron turned and jogged down the driveway, then broke into a run, hood bouncing, disappearing into the dark. I stood by my truck, looking at the long scratch line in the paint. It wasn't deep enough to ruin the body. It was just enough to say, "I can touch your stuff. I can invade your space." I recorded the scratch. I recorded the keys on the ground. I recorded the street where Aaron vanished. Then I went back inside and locked the door. My hands were shaking now, not fear, anger. I sent the video to Tessa. Her reply came at 2:09 a.m. "Good job not engaging. We'll file for a protective order and damages. This helps. Go back to bed if you can." I stared at the word protective. This was the part Haley's supporters didn't understand. I wasn't controlling her. I was containing them. Because when people like Haley and Aaron lose control, they don't accept the loss quietly. They lash out, they scratch, they threaten, and if you don't contain them, they'll bleed into every part of your life until you don't recognize yourself. I lay back down, staring at the ceiling. Outside, the wind made the branches tap against the window, soft and insistent. Tap, tap, tap. Like someone knocking, like someone saying, "Let me in." I closed my eyes and pictured Haley's post, her crying words, the comments calling her brave. Then I pictured the video in my evidence folder, her voice saying, "I can ruin you." I fell asleep with a new clarity. She wanted a public war, and now she was going to get one. Not my way, hers. But with me holding the receipts. The scratch on my truck wasn't deep. It didn't ruin anything. It was just enough to say, "I can reach you." Aaron had crossed from words into action, and he'd done it under my porch light with my phone recording. Tessa moved fast. She filed for a protective order based on harassment and property damage, attached the footage, attached the voicemail logs, attached Aaron's texts. She also attached Haley's doorstep threat. "I can ruin you," because it showed a pattern, not a bad night. Haley's lawyer tried to argue that Aaron was a third party, and therefore irrelevant. Tessa's reply was a knife in a velvet sleeve. "Third parties don't key vehicles on camera, counsel." The hearing was quick. Aaron didn't show. His absence did the talking for him. The judge watched the video, listened to Tessa's summary, and issued the order. Aaron was required to stay away from me, my home, and my workplace. He was prohibited from contacting me through any means. The judge also ordered him to pay for the damage to my truck, which wasn't much money, but it was an official line in an official document that said, "You did this." Haley sat behind her lawyer during all of it, face stiff, watching like she was seeing her choices in fluorescent light. She wasn't crying, she wasn't furious. She was calculating. That was the part that used to scare me. Outside, a woman approached me while Tessa packed her folder. "My niece is Brooke," she said. "She told me what you sent. Thank you." Then she handed me a stack of printed screenshots, messages, dates, names. "Aaron's been doing this," she said. "Different women. Same script. Brooke wants you to have these in case you need proof." In the car, I flipped through the pages until I found Haley's name. Weeks of planning. Jokes about me being steady but dull. The lie about her dad's health like it was a prop. The joint account like it was a trick. There was a message from Haley that made my stomach tighten even though I'd already been stabbed. "Just book it. He won't check." I stared at that sentence until it stopped feeling like words and started feeling like a diagnosis. That night, two things happened. First, Haley's public post disappeared. No apology, no correction, just gone, like it had never existed. People who'd commented supportive nonsense suddenly went quiet, pretending they hadn't been part of it. Second, my phone lit up with private messages. A woman from Haley's old friend group wrote, "I saw what she posted and I'm sorry. I didn't know. Please don't hate us." A guy I'd met at a barbecue once wrote, "Man, I feel stupid. She made it sound like you were a monster." I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because I didn't want to feed the gossip machine. If you answer one person, you end up answering the whole town. Haley's consequences didn't come with fireworks. They came with small doors closing. Her supervisor called her in, not because I contacted them, but because she'd dragged her personal drama into the public with an abuse accusation that made her workplace nervous. She worked in a people-facing role, the kind where image is currency. Image doesn't like investigations. She was placed on leave pending review. That's what her lawyer told Tessa in a clipped email, as if it was a casual detail. Erin's consequences came faster. Brooke didn't just cancel the wedding. She pulled the deposits, notified guests, and, without naming names, posted a single sentence. "If your fiancé says he travels for work, check the invoices." That sentence spread like smoke. Erin's company didn't need me to do anything. Erin did it to himself when he walked into my workplace and got escorted out. Employers hear about that stuff. It's the kind of story that jumps from front desk to management like a virus. By the end of the week, Tessa said, "He's been put on administrative leave." Haley tried to call me from a new number. I recognized the rhythm of her attempts. One ring, hang up, then a longer ring, like she hoped I'd mistake it for someone else. I didn't answer. Instead, I did the crueler, cleaner thing. I sent the screenshots to Haley's lawyer through Tessa with one note. Attached are communications showing planning and financial intent. We are prepared to proceed. In other words, we have receipts. And in that silence that followed, I felt something snap into place. She finally understood. I wasn't going to shout. I was going to win. Mediation was scheduled for a Friday afternoon in a conference room that smelled like stale coffee and carpet cleaner. The kind of room where people sign papers that turn love into math. I arrived early and sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes, watching my breath fog the windshield. I thought about the first year of our marriage, when Haley used to climb into my truck just to sit close, just to be near me. I thought about how she'd gotten used to stability the way people get used to good weather, taking it for granted until the storm hits. Then I went inside. Tessa sat beside me, legal pad ready. Haley sat across the table with her lawyer, hair pulled tight, eyes flat. The mediator explained the rules like we were children. No yelling, take turns, focus on terms. Haley didn't start with an apology. "You changed," she said, staring at me. "You became cold." The mediator cleared his throat. "Let's focus on the agreement." Haley's lawyer slid their proposal forward. They wanted part of the house equity. They wanted me to carry shared debts. They wanted time. I looked at the paper and felt nothing. Numbers don't bleed. Tessa slid ours forward. Clean split, no spousal support, repayment of the resort charges, repair costs for the truck scratch as ordered, and a written agreement about public statements. Haley's mouth tightened. "You want me to pay you back?" "You spent it," I said. "I didn't spend it alone," she snapped. "I know," I said. The mediator raised his palms. "Let's keep it constructive." Tessa's voice stayed even. "We have documentation," she said. "If we don't settle, we'll request it formally." Haley's eyes flicked, panicked. "What documentation?" "The truth," I said. Haley let out a sharp laugh that sounded close to choking. "You think the truth matters?" she said. "People already picked sides." I leaned forward slightly, voice low. "Truth matters in court. Truth matters to banks. Truth matters when a judge watches a video of you saying you can ruin me." Her face went white. Her lawyer opened his mouth, then closed it. He knew where this was heading. Haley's voice dropped to a whisper, almost intimate. "If you wanted to hurt me," she said, "you succeeded." I didn't move. "I wanted to stop you," I said. "Hurt is what happens when you hit a wall." For a moment, the room went quiet, except for the soft buzz of the overhead lights. The mediator looked between us like he was watching a small animal decide whether to run or freeze. Then the conference room door opened. A deputy stepped in, calm but firm. "Mr. Kessler?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "There's a subject in the hallway in violation of a protective order," he said. "He's asking for you." Haley whispered the name like a curse. "Erin." I stood. Tessa stood. The mediator stood halfway and then sat back down, as if he'd suddenly remembered he was paid for paperwork, not chaos. We stepped into the hall. Aaron paced near the elevators, hoodie up, face flushed. When he saw me, he lunged like he wanted a scene. The deputy blocked him, hands out. "Sir, stop," the deputy ordered. Aaron's eyes burned into mine. "You took everything," he shouted. "You took it," I said. He jerked his head toward Haley when she appeared behind me. "You told me he was nothing," he hissed. "You told me you were worth it. You said you had money." Haley flinched, and for once she didn't have a line ready. The deputy gripped Aaron's arm. Aaron twisted, trying to pull free, trying to make it dramatic. The deputy didn't play along. He held him like a problem being solved. Aaron's eyes found mine again, wild and bright. "You're going to be alone," he spat. "You'll have your papers and your empty house." I felt a strange peace settle in, the kind you get when the threat finally sounds small. "Maybe," I said, "but I won't be lied to in my own bed." The deputy guided Aaron toward the exit, firm and controlled. No sirens, no hero stuff, just consequences walking him out. In the sudden quiet, Haley stared at the empty space he'd left behind, then at me. Her face looked older, as if the lies had finally taken their payment. "Nate," she whispered, "please." I shook my head once. "Sign," I said, "or we keep going." Her throat worked. She looked at Tessa, she looked at her lawyer, she looked at me, then she walked back into the conference room, sat down, and picked up the pen. Her hand shook as she signed. I signed too. The ink dried fast. When we left the building, the late afternoon air hit my face cold and clean. I opened my truck door, scratch and all, got in, and started the engine. My phone buzzed once. I didn't check it. I put the phone face down and drove forward. At the end of the lot, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Haley was out on the sidewalk now, hair coming loose, coat half-buttoned, shouting my name like she could pull me back with volume. Behind her, the deputy had Aaron pinned against the glass doors, one hand on his shoulder, the other guiding his arm down as Aaron thrashed and barked. For a split second, Aaron wrenched free enough to lunge toward my truck, palm slapping the hood with a dull thump that vibrated through the frame. I didn't stop. I didn't roll the window down. I just kept the wheels straight and watched them shrink in the mirror until they were nothing but moving dots in dirty winter light. Two people still trying to grab the story after the ending had already been signed. A light ahead turned green as I approached, like the city itself was waving me through. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my pulse was loud in my ears. For the first time in months, the road in front of me felt like it belonged to me again. And that was the real revenge. Not their loss, but my silence. Moving forward. No shouting, no comeback. Gone.